working in biochar sector. So I introduced him to another one of my colleagues in British Columbia recently, who's been embedding biochar into their concrete products and bricks and such.
Oh, that's a great idea.
That's been something he's been working on for years. And
Fabulous.
I got contacted actually by a researcher at Cornell University, young girl actually, who's Canadian, and she's down there, and she said, "Well, I heard you were doing stuff, the biochar stuff up in Canada there. Wanted to get in touch with you because we're trying to do the same thing, embed biochar into bricks and cement and roads and all sorts of infrastructure possibilities."
Well, does she have
so?
Does she have
she's just
research?
No, she's working at Cornell in the research department. She's actually she's a civil engineer.
Excuse me, Lloyd. I've begun recording.
Yep.
I think the key people are here. In the interest of time, I have begun recording though.
Okay.
And I'm still in motion, but when I get a chance, I'll check back in. But right now, I'm turning it over to you.
All right. Thank you very much. So we are moving forward, having this recorded meeting. Looks like we now have 6 people. We have Terrence on the line. We have Angela on the line. We have Dennis on the line. We have Carlos on the line, myself, and Prince Andrew. And so we are having our first meeting to come up with some kind of plans for moving forward to create some kind of business group. I've been sort of interim calling it the UnityPandemic Business Group. So I had put out a document just yesterday around what the UnityPandemic really means. And actually this was started about a year ago or so. It's the beginning of the pandemic last year. Really, actually even before that, where we had started through the planting of a tree of peace and reconciliation here in the Greater Toronto area. Actually, it ended up in Pickering that we planted this tree on a parcel of land just outside of Markham, just like on the other side of the border of Markham. But we actually had our councillor come out to this tree planting event. My own municipal council member was there. So we did this ceremonial tree of peace and reconciliation tree planting. We brought community together, and based on this conversations that we had subsequent or leading up to and subsequent to the tree planting, we created this Victory Pandemic GTA group, which subsequently went on to plant 2 other trees of peace and reconciliation in Toronto area, including one downtown Toronto in St. Jamestown. And that's actually where we did our Sunlight Spectacle event, 2020 event, was at the St. Jamestown Tree of Peace and Reconciliation tree that we had planted. So there's a 3rd one as well, and that was planted in Scarborough. So we've done this process of planting the trees of peace and reconciliation and Sunlight Spectacle event online. Basically, it's a virtual online telethon music campaign. That was actually coordinated by Corin Smith in Bermuda with the help of our Toronto team and some teams through Global Cooperation Day, Adam Greenwell, and some actually it was some folks in Cuba of all places that ended up being the primary coordinators of this online event, where we had some basically online people online doing music, singing, playing guitars, whatever. But we also had live in person at the Trees of Peace and Reconciliation. So that was our Sunlight Spectacle event. We're hoping to, of course, do that again this year, June 10th being the target date, as well as adding to the repertoire of the Trees of Peace and Reconciliation and the Sunlight Spectacle, also these Bubble Fun festivals, which are now in discussion again with our colleagues in Bermuda, Corin specifically, and in Los Angeles potentially. They may have one event there. I don't know if that's in conversation at this point yet, but certainly here in Toronto, where I am in Markham, we're already talking with our local community organization through Drawdown Markham, and with our council members and with some other community members, including also a fairly new ambassador to our network. This a lady by the name of Maria. So Maria was on an event or a Zoom call that took place yesterday during International Women's Day, where she was brought in as an ambassador to their network. And so she has a gardens program, a food veggie gardens program that she's been working on and developing for a while. And so she has a couple of farm properties potentially that she may want to be leasing this summer, where we can do the Bubble Fun Festival for our own purposes. We may even have more than one. So they are developing the actual infrastructure to do the Bubble Fun Festival. So these bubble showers and other bubble production systems in British Columbia, Canada here as well. And so the Pyropod company is promoting their, what we call these open source regenerative infrastructure solutions. So in that case, it's the solar roof structures, Pyropod solutions that we're trying to promote, among other things. But all of these open source regenerative climate smart solutions that we call within this category. But to create the business group that would manage all of the events and the promotions, marketing, and the networks, the local networks we're trying to create in every community in every country. Eventually, we have now, as I explained actually on the WhatsApp this morning, within the Bubble Fun Festival group, we now have 3 Victory Pandemic teams basically coming together. We've had our Victory Pandemic GTA team for, as I said, about a year, since we did our Tree of Peace and Reconciliation tree planting the September before last, in 2019. We brought together this team to say, let's plant more of these trees. And that was originally what it was. And then we did the Sunlight Spectacle event. And then now we're bringing in the Bubble Fun Festival event. And basically these are processes to engage communities at local level. And it's a team building process as well at the local level. To have people engaged in these events, like the Trees of Peace and Reconciliation events, the Sunlight Spectacle events, having the conversations between and among community members at the local level. And then, so this as part of the process of localizing the SDGs, creating local teams that have the expertise and the capability of beginning to implement these solutions in their own communities at the local level. So whether it's a Pyropod building, or whether it's something as simple as a climate smart victory garden, or putting it in basically not just putting in the garden, but managing. And same with forests, and the same, of course, with any of this regenerative infrastructure that we would like to be able to produce local food, local quote unquote climate smart food that can be certified, that can become part of basically a global supply chain that's supplied locally. But could be branded globally, but provided at the local level. So local communities producing their own local food from this regenerative climate smart infrastructure, which could of course be built with many of these carbon sequestering or climate smart, as we might call it, also infrastructure solutions like let's say the hempcrete building materials or other types of carbon smart building structures, whether it's these concretes, or it could be some kind of metals that have had their carbon emissions offset as a result of the carbon credits that we're creating through the food system. So I'm seeing that Angela has a question there. Angela, did you want to unmute yourself and ask something?
Sure. How are you?
I'm great.
That's awesome. Yeah, so I was just wondering, since it's climate smart, I was just wondering like how climate smart it is, because, you know, like that's one of the issues with sustainability is, especially with plant-based cuisine, that it typically is more sustainable, but then, you know, if you're importing stuff like avocados and bananas and stuff like that, which everybody wants, it's not really sustainable. So in these smart, go ahead.
I just wanted to say this is why we have laid out the framework for protocols for how what it means to be climate smart.
Okay.
So I haven't sent you the I guess the full. I did send you the sort of the outline documents, but not the full presentation. But the idea is, of course, it's the climate smart certification happens when carbon gets sequestered by the producer somewhere. We're not specifying how much, and so there could still be net emissions, but we're also trying to create local and minimize the transportation distances too. So at the same time, we're not going to certify as climate smart, let's say bananas that are produced halfway around, or apples or whatever, produced halfway around the world and shipped in on very high carbon emission.
Like I guess I'm getting a little confused with the climate smart and then the pyropods. Would we be able to do them in the pyropods?
Well, the idea is that we haven't come up with at this point, because again, this has been voluntary up until now. So we developed the climate smart food certification system program originally through our Science for Peace Community Sustainability Working Group. And so that was a voluntary effort we did through an NGO in Toronto, Science for Peace. But we'd like to actualize it and make it real. So we have protocols for soils and soil-based systems. So that's what we developed. This was a conversation that took place between members of Science for Peace, our Community Sustainability Working Group members, and an organization that was actually based in Cameroon in Africa. So at the time that the UN had basically come up with these sustainable development goals, was promoting the sustainable development goals.
On now.
So,
can we get somebody to mute their mic?
Nancy? Email.
I think it's Nancy.
Yeah, the meeting.
Nancy, could you maybe mute your microphone? So as I was saying, that we had this process of these conversations. The Sustainable Development Goals were just at the time 2015, just being promoted. The UN was going through this process. We connected with basically these people from the UN Association of Canada in Toronto, UNACTO it's called. And they were connected to a group in Cameroon, and these Cameroonian young people were promoting what they were calling at the time climate smart agriculture. But climate smart agriculture was mostly being promoted by the big ag corporations like the Monsantos and ADMs and such like that, as a way to promote their GMO solutions and such like that.
Yes.
So we said, look, what we want to do is promote regenerative climate smart agriculture. So we said, look, we're going to promote the food forests. We're going to promote the organic and the regenerative, because regenerative agriculture was also a discussion happening at that time. So we said, okay, our process is to certify the food production system that is regenerative, just like we would certify an organic farm. We would certify the climate smart farms, the regenerative climate smart farms, as climate smart, brand it just the way you brand organic. But what are the criteria? So we said, basically, let's keep it really simple. So even somebody in Cameroon can certify their farm as climate smart. We said 2 criteria, only 2 criteria. 1, if you do a soil test and your soil carbon increases year over year over year. So last year compared to this year, and if this year your soil carbon levels measured by a soil test is higher than last year, you can get certified. But then there's a second criteria, and the second criteria was you are, as a producer, as a farmer, or however you're producing your food, or the food that you're producing, you are implementing one or more other of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. You're promoting, you are implementing something, and you have to report on that, what you are doing to support the SDGs.
Love it.
And when you report that, that becomes your marketing as well. Because you're now saying, as a producer, I'm doing this to support the SDGs, and I'm sequestering carbon into my soils.
Yes.
It's measurable. I did a soil test. We have third-party verification. We've seen this increase in soil carbon because we're doing X, Y. We don't specify what you need to do. We don't care what you need to do. As long as the third-party soil test says, yes, we're increasing our soil carbon. That means we're doing something right. Okay, what else are you doing? We're supporting gender equality on our farm by hiring equal numbers of men and women, or something like that. It's totally up in the air for anybody to basically report on, here's what I'm doing. Again, it would need to be verified somehow.
Yeah, I have one more question.
But this is the system that we're trying to promote.
Okay.
It's not about any particular technology. It's not about any particular solution, because there are so many solutions that we could come up with.
Yeah. So that sounds great. I like that there's like an audit too, so people can go in. Are you going to be testing for like the purity of the soil to make sure that there is no pesticides or like GMO stuff in it?
Well, no. Actually, the idea, the original Climate Smart Food Program was actually just to say, look, all you need to do is increase your soil carbon and implement something on the SDGs. It could be an organic farm. It might not be an organic farm. So you can have certified climate smart organic food, or you could have conventional climate smart food. We're not going to specify that. We're just adding another layer, another certification on top of that. But of course, you can have many more. Organic, climate smart, bird friendly, whatever. You can have a bunch of certifications layered on top of each other, and you can get better and better. You can have some sort of local certification as well, applied to whatever you're producing. You can have ethical frameworks applied as well. We're just one of those sort of things. We're not saying, oh, like, I know the regenerative agriculture certification system actually gets very complex and can actually get, I would think, can get very expensive as a result. Our idea was to make it as easy to get that certification as possible and as cheap for any producer to do, no matter the scale of their farm. Especially, we were talking with youth in Africa. We were saying, look, we have a small plot. We have an average size of our farm is an acre or something like that. We can't afford to get an organic certification. We're not going to get organic certification. We're definitely not going to get regenerative certification. But because that's just way too expensive and too complex, and we don't want to do that. That's just way too much. We just wanted to make it simple. Say, just do a soil test. You're probably going to do a soil test anyway. Most farmers do. Part of the soil test is is the carbon content of your soils. If it goes up compared to last year and you just submit those documents, here's my third-party soil test, we can now have a framework, a virtual portal that allows you to report about what you're doing on your farm to implement implement some sustainable development goal, or more than one even. This is the process. So what we're doing is not just supporting this climate smart food program, which is originally how I got involved in the climate smart sector, which was starting, of course, with climate smart agriculture, that concept that came out of the big ag corporations and the conversations we had with these youth in Cameroon. What we're trying to do is support the marketing and awareness of and implementation at the local level of these solutions, all of these solutions, in our own communities, by raising awareness about what is an open source regenerative climate smart solution. It is part of this portfolio, which includes the solar roof and the pyropod solutions. So that's kind of a local vertical farming kind of solution. We haven't applied our protocols to that yet. We'd like to.
Yeah.
But we need a business group to manage all of this, because we can't roll out a big a change, basically a paradigm change in the way we produce food locally around the world by just volunteer effort. We need a business group that actually starts to create this program and undertake these processes.
Totally.
So the things like, if you think of things like the Tree of Peace and Reconciliation and the CSV Gardens and the Victory Forests, and those are education and training, or the learning programs associated with that, like what Joan is putting together, even Maria is putting together as well, in her own organization, and others are doing as well. But the idea is that what we want to do is use that as a process to raise awareness about this process of globalization and that we can produce our food locally, and most of our nutrition needs can be actually produced locally, regeneratively.
Yeah.
In local businesses, creating jobs, and so you don't have to think, when you think about food, most people think about farms that are far away. They've never even been to a farm. A lot of kids have never even seen a cow or a pig or whatever, right? Or they've never witnessed a real live chicken, but they don't know where the food comes from.
Yeah.
So part of these events is actually a process of creating conversations and creating the teams, the local community or the community-based teams that will start to actually raise awareness, and then I guess you could say organize the community around building this infrastructure that would allow us to actually grow this type of quote unquote climate smart food.
Cool. Yeah, me and her
and produce climate smart infrastructure solutions, like within their own communities.
Yeah, she and Joan and I are working on that in the client. We're doing adventures with smart foods. So we're talking about a lot of this. Okay, I just wanted that clarification. Thank you.
Yeah. So I guess the kind of just looking back at the agenda here. So I kind of did an overview. I hope everybody's able to hear me talk, and it's not broken up at one end or another. I know we've had quite a few extra other people come on. I'm just looking at the names here.
Lloyd, I have one more question. Sorry to be so annoying.
Yeah, no problem.
Because like for me, we send out all these emails and then they're always like layered and stacked, and I find it really hard because maybe just because I'm with Gmail, but is there anywhere where we could like keep all this information in like a shared drive or something, so it's a little more organized, or is it, and like I just don't know about it?
Yeah, I actually, that was something that Joan had mentioned as well, that I think she was going to do. I have my own system
Yeah.
here that I use. I actually just use Microsoft OneNote
Okay.
to keep track of all this stuff.
I'm starting to do the same thing with my Mac. I'm just like going in and like kind of keeping a different folder and stuff like that, just because.
Yeah. So I've got actually a Microsoft OneNote. I've been using it ever since actually we started the Canadian Biochar Initiative back in 2008. So I have basically a history of thousands and thousands of pages with every event we've had, every meeting we've had, and every initiative we've tried to take ever since we created Biochar Ontario and the Canadian Biochar Initiative back in 2008, as I said. So it's been, I have an archive of about more than a dozen years of meetings and information and stuff like that. So, but it's unfortunately, it's just on my desktop. It's not online.
Yeah. Okay. Just
so, but we should start to create the actual. I mean, if we're going to create a business group, we're going to need to eventually create a website.
Totally.
More than just, of course, the Facebook sites, and now we, of course, I have a meetup site for our Drawdown Markham, and Facebook site, stuff like that. But that's social media. That's not really business organizing a business. And even the website for a business is just a portal for other people to see what you're kind of doing and understand your business. But all the business stuff gets all done behind the scenes. But
so Lloyd,
yeah,
I'm happy to provide this forum. As I understand it, this is a business meeting. So I'd like for you guys to decide, well, who's here, follow some protocols so that you can follow up in a coherent manner. So I'm just suggesting that you can go forward.
Yeah, no, I was just about to say that according to our agenda, I wanted to have everybody provide their introductions. That was kind of why I had started in the agenda. It said we're going to do an introduction, or I'll be doing an introduction. I think actually before we move forward with everybody, I'll skip over and allow Carlos to introduce himself, because the introduction was supposed to be myself and Carlos. So perhaps Carlos could say a few things about his interest and his work that he's doing in Sierra Leone.
Well, everyone can share that. Yeah. Also, you can share your screen. I haven't seen the agenda, the entire group, what we're talking about, but I'll turn it back over to you, Lloyd.
I'll put it in the chat.
Welcome.
Okay. All right. Hello. Really, we're grateful really to have this meeting as partners to discuss strategic issues around how we can plan issues around our communities, around our people, and how we can move them towards the development pathway that we are currently setting up. And for me, this is a very good time for us, Lloyd, Andrew, and others, Angela, bringing up partners globally together to ensure that we put ideas in the different spectrum. We Lloyd just analyzed around the agenda. So for us in Sierra Leone, for me, I'm a consultant. I'm working with different local organizations, supporting them to ensure that they have the rightful system of intervention at community level in terms of their different target beneficiaries around women intervention or women empowerment, also child safety or peace building activities, and also promoting healthcare alongside with the government, and also promoting agriculture, agribusiness, also promoting climate smart technology activities around environmental safety, etc., as well as also in agriculture. So my organization and other organizations that I'm also supporting, they are working in a range of activities around agriculture, adding what we call value addition. For instance, we're promoting mechanized farming to ensure that we have large-scale rice production, cassava, and other essential crops that we normally use for food in Sierra Leone to promote food sufficiency and food security. And we have some big missing gaps around here, especially the issue of value addition, of which we've started working around. For instance, promotion of vegetables, how these vegetables can enhance them to ensure that they are there for some time and they'll be able to reach the final consumer for a period of time, for some time. In all these ones, we considering to look at a possible partnership to come on board to see how we can move that, including also like our staple rice, which is also how we can packet it into different kilograms for the ordinary people from community level onto urban centers. And of course, so that's the agriculture aspect, and also how we can ensure that we protect our environment by multiplying to ensure that we have promote afforestation. We plant so many trees, as Lloyd was saying. We vastly on the stage of promoting planting trees. For instance, we just got a grant from Myro Forestry from England that is in Sierra Leone to plant economic trees, such as cashews and other trees that we can use, also for economic livelihood, etc., etc. And also how we can promote women, because in Sierra Leone, what's really happening, women are the front runners in agriculture. And but they are really, really handicapped because one, in terms of capacity building, and so we're looking out for possible partnership in terms of how we can enhance, these climate smart technologies, helping to prepare food or to make food, that we can reach the ordinary consumer, can be affordable and can be accessible, but in a more decent way, in different shape or form, for instance. And recently we have an organization called Helen Keller International that is promoting what we call orange fresh potato. They use the potato to add value chain in it. For instance, now we getting some proceeds of flour from it, local flour from the potato, and also they make different cakes and other accessories around it. So these are the kind of stuff that we are actually doing in Sierra Leone. I'm presenting holistically what is in Sierra Leone, what we are doing now. We have a whole lot of it. I also have my colleagues, maybe they can say something to add around it. That's exactly what we're doing in Sierra Leone, but the missing gap is value addition. Is to move from what we call the hoe and the cutlass farming onto mechanized farming, to ensure that when you go to the farm, you can have throughout. We have 2 seasons in the year. We have the dry season, the rainy season. You can still produce food even the dry season. But at some point, because of the dry season, sometimes, they will still have arable lands, lands that we can cultivate, continue right from the rainy season. But when it reaches dry season, you no more continue there until you go to the IVS, the inland valleys or the swamps. So we want to create a system wherein that you still have a continuity, bringing up the solar system onto the farm to ensure that there is always food, there is always food, there is always food. So those are the areas that we are actually looking at. How we can empower women because they are most vulnerable. How we can empower young people with entrepreneurship system to ensure that we move ahead. So this partnership can help for us to have a broader spectrum of ideas, innovation, creativity as to how we can support ourselves at community level. For instance, we can have partners coming maybe from South Africa or maybe from Canada itself or other places. They come here, they practice what they are doing there that is really going fine, that is really successful. And then that may be adaptable to the content of Sierra Leone, and then right away we'll move things. So basically, this is what we're doing in Sierra Leone. I know we're working with the government of Sierra Leone as a charitable organization and also as business organization to ensure that we move all this ahead. So basically, if you ask me to give a snappy or summary introduction of what we're doing, this is exactly some of the core values of what we're doing in Sierra Leone.
Well, thank you very much. Also, I suggest that we have a separate meeting specifically about the Zaindriss Foundation and an action plan. But as for today, Lloyd, you have the agenda in the chat. I've also put the link there to the Zaindriss Foundation. So Lloyd, perhaps we can walk through today's agenda. If we have time, then perhaps we can address the Zaindriss Foundation. But Lloyd, in the interest of everyone's time, please, let's get this over with. Thank you.
All right, I was just talking there, but I didn't realize I was
Loyd
muted.
Helferty.
Okay, so I just wanted to say that I think this is part of the reason why what we're trying to do also is about education and training, because we're not going to necessarily go into these communities ourselves to implement stuff for them. We would like them to be able to implement it for themselves. And so our process is about creating those conversations at the local level and providing that information they need.
Lloyd, please go through your agenda and then we can address that issue. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I just want to frame sort of the discussion around the path forward. And even though I've talked about all these climate smart things, it really is about education and training and promotions.
Yes. Your emails have been very comprehensive. But for today, please walk through your agenda. Thank you.
Yeah. So we need to consider the path forward. And basically this meeting is about getting a yes or no, I guess, on whether we're going to be able to establish this proposed UnityPandemic business group, have it registered. I think here in Canada we can do so as a legal business entity that will allow us to actually start to formalize all of the things that we have been doing over the last year, starting with the trees and moving forward, so we can actually coordinate this as a global campaign, or local campaign, we might say, where we can have these things actually multiply themselves. So I think that at this point, I just sort of want to open it up, and it is our next steps to actually have individual introductions from everybody to get their thoughts. So I guess we'll just go through. We've had Carlos speak. Angela spoke a bit. Do you want to say a few more words, Angela, first, or would you rather go a little later? and have something to say.
Well, I have a call at 2, but I don't know how long it's go, but I can always come back on afterwards. I don't know what you guys need to know about me. Hold on, put my.
Well, just a moment. For station identification purposes, perhaps I could take at least a moment to introduce myself to those that don't know who I am, right?
Okay, good.
I'm Andrew Williams Jr. In the background, you see 5 Points Youth Foundation. I'm actually here at that location right now. We're a member of the Global Compact, United Nations Global Compact. So our focus is on the Sustainable Development Goals. What we would like to do is find a way that we can address these issues on a global basis. We call it globalization for the activities that we're doing locally. The idea is to show how this has a global impact and vice versa. So we are focused on the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, global partnerships. So everyone's welcome and invited to participate with this. And we put together a booklet that kind of describes an outline, an existing framework. We don't have to start from scratch from the United Nations Global Compact. I'll make this link available to you all. We're inviting everyone to join us together, and not just our interfaith neighborhood and businesses, but also royals, indigenous people, and tribes to connect together this collaboration through business. Because at the end of the day, it's business that's driving this entire collaboration. So I do certainly want to thank Lloyd for forcing us to come to a business decision so that then we can engage on a global scale. I won't walk through this particular document, but I will make it available to anyone that has interest in it. I'll reply to your email because I think everyone here is on an email communication. So I'll turn it back over to you, Lloyd, for your follow-up.
Well, thank you very much, Andrew. I'm glad that you were able to do that. Angela, did you want to continue with that, or shall we?
I'll just introduce myself really quickly so everybody knows who I am that isn't on here, because I see some new names. My name is Angela, and I'm the founder of Kindred Kitchens, and I am I don't know how to say it, AHIABGA or whatever, food activist. But I am a food activist, and I'm really focused on sustainability, and I'm launching the Restaurant Evolution right now, which is really exciting. It's bringing in industry and using, I really want to incorporate the climate smart projects into it to kind of create a circular economy and support the local economy, creating jobs. So it's very aligned in that. And then I'm also going to be working with Joan, doing smart climate food training on the local level. So that's where I am. And I'm just happy to be part of this with all you guys. Oh, look, that's me. Healthy, hip, holistic. Yes. So I'll be sharing a lot of stuff with you guys. I've been super busy just putting together packages so that it's all really easy to read and present. And if we are looking for anything like grants and stuff like that, I'm also happy to help because I have access to a whole bunch of grants and investments and stuff like that. I subscribe to this Startup Canada. So if that is something that's on the agenda and I have like what the ask is, I'm happy to try and help out with there too. So that's all, just keeping it nice and short. You guys are all awesome.
Yeah, well, what we will have those conversations for sure in the coming weeks. This is just a preliminary meeting that we're trying to introduce each other to each other, to get to know who we are and who's really interested in actually coming together to create this business coalition. So I'd actually ask, I guess, from the order on, as I see it on my screen, maybe Nancy, I don't know how to pronounce that. Bamoy? Do you pronounce the G?
Gamoy?
Bamoy, I think.
Nancy, just Nancy.
Yeah, Nancy Bamoy.
It is Bamoy. No pronunciation of the
Yes,
G.
good
I didn't think
evening.
so.
Yes, Bamoy.
Hi, Nancy.
Good evening from my side. Yes, hi, good evening.
Yes, we can hear you.
I get me.
Nancy, we are listening.
Yes, how are you?
Did you want to
I'm
quickly
happy to
introduce
be
yourself,
in this
Nancy?
platform.
Thank you.
Yes,
Where are you
I will
located,
I'm
Nancy?
happy. Yeah, I'm happy because I am in Sierra Leone and in northern parts of Sierra Leone, Port Loko. I have also been women's rights issues. I am the founder of a women-led organization which was established during the Ebola pandemic in Sierra Leone. We've been working on issues that has to do with human rights, agriculture, advocacies, on the welfare of women and children, and also those women that were affected by the Ebola outbreak in Sierra Leone, and also with the coronavirus disease. I'm happy that I am in this forum, especially the one that has to do with smart agriculture. In our community, we have a lot of opportunities which, if we are able to work on, we'll be able to increase our productivity. We are also growing seedlings by my organization. We are selling them for farmers to buy. And I'm sure with what I have had, I've been thinking that I will contributed that my father is using urine to produce local manure that he's using to apply on his vegetable garden. I'm also going to tap that one to be using it in our organization and nursery. I will share photos of the nursery my organization have been embarking on. We usually sell these 3 crops: oil palm, cola nuts, citrus of all kinds. We used to sell to farmers that are selling. I mean that are planting during the planting season, especially in July. I will share those photos so that you see what my organization have been doing. I'm happy to be in this forum, and my hands are welcome to anybody that wants to work with us. And Carlos, I know some of the activities that we've been doing, because at some point we do call on him so that he will be an advisor to some of the activities that we are doing. I'm happy to be in this group, and I'll continue to do the work I have been doing. Now that I have got this smart agriculture, I will continue to do my level best to see that I'll give advice to especially the women that are working in my community that doesn't have the knowledge to use the compost, to use the other items around them for them to increase their productivity. Thank you very much once again. I am Nancy Bamoy, Sierra Leone, Putloko.
Well, thank you so much. If you can place in the chat your contact information and our website or Facebook page or some way we can reach you, we'd appreciate that. Carlos already did that for you. Perhaps our other guests could also do the same in the chat, and then save the chat so you'll be able to follow up with us. I'll turn it back over to you, Lloyd. Thank you.
Yes, of course. Nancy, sorry, just what Nancy has just said. Of course, they are developing. They are in the developing stage, so they need a lot of interventions in the area of capacity. Also in the area of developing their website system. So that's really a big gap around it. But she will fund us with all what they are doing. I've been with them. I know what they are doing. They are doing a lot of good things in that particular in that part of the country. So Nancy, thank you. You're welcome for coming.
So what I got from that, from what Nancy said, was that perhaps Nancy might be serving the business team as a consultant or advisor, perhaps an official advisor to the management team on some of the things that we will try to roll out through the business team. Okay, so perhaps then also we can have, again, just going across my screen, Helen Kaloko.
Yeah, good afternoon on my side and good evening to other side. My name is Helen Kaloko, originally from Sierra Leone. I'm residing in the United States, in Virginia. I'm new to this. I'm partnering with Carlos, so I'm still learning. So I'm happy to be a part of this group, and I'm looking forward to better empowerment. I'm here to, my foundation is to empower women, children, gender. So I have to move further after this in agriculture. I'll go in healthcare. So for now, I'll just leave it at now as I'm learning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's great. Okay, I just want to add something to Helen. Helen, as she said, she's in United States. She is the CEO for Helen K. Children Foundation. It's a new organization that is also coming up, but I'm really proud of her because she's in the States and she wants to do what we call pay back home to ensure that engage women, young people, children in different areas that she mentioned, the area of agriculture, the healthcare, peace building, women empowerment areas. You know, these are all areas, also in education, these are all areas she is focusing on. So very soon, we're going to see what Helen is coming up for sure, because she has started, as I'm talking now, she has started deploying cultivation of rice, cassava, also vegetable and other things she has started. Thank you.
So again, a potential there to provide again support and insights as an advisory or possible advisory role within the team. I'm sure we're going to end up with a lot of advisors for the management team of the business organization that's going to be managing the campaigns, the promotions, and development of these supply chain certification systems and such. So I'm seeing somebody new that seems to be coming on, Esaya Guerriero.
Yeah,
Very
I'm
dark.
also seeing that person. Can the person identify his or herself? Esaya, Warrior. We are listening, please.
You
All
may
right.
have to unmute yourself, and everybody knows how to do that.
Yeah, we heard him, Lloyd. He said he's here listening. So go to your next person here. Or perhaps you could introduce the people you know, Lloyd, and then we'll introduce the people you don't know.
I guess the only other person I do know is Terrence. So let's see if we can hear from Terrence.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I think that my challenge in this is that I'm always talking about the business aspect of it, and I seem to frustrate people because they think I'm just talking about sales and business. And so I don't think I can get away from my talent because that's probably the only one I have. The cycle of success is positioning itself as an entity to bring together people that function like you in making the world a better place, and corporations that want to sell making the world a better place. So our intent specifically is to demonstrate the value of making the world better for people that have been disenfranchised. And what we're saying to corporations is that the capital investments that you make into these communities, not from a foundation perspective, but from a business perspective, is going to make it a better world. So from a local level, and then extending it all the way out, produces shared prosperity. Again, it looks like I'm just talking about the selling of products with our corporate partners, but it's not. And I want to clarify that because I want people to understand if corporations are after profitability and we demonstrate to them that we can impact that, they hear us completely different when we have conversations. They move us from their small giveaway dollars to the dollars that are necessary for marketing and for promotions and for business development so that we are driving their success. And the benefit is that our people get educated, we get clean food, we get clean water. If they don't understand it in the economic construct, they're going to think that we're leaving them behind. And so I keep sharing with people that corporations are made up of people. And I hope that all of you will gather when I start talking about it, and I start talking about moving the needle from an economics perspective. It is so that we have leverage. I love to talk to the young lady that has the health program. We were supposed to talk a few weeks ago, and I want to make sure that I get her name right. I think it's Angela Marie. I'm just saying this over this line so that she and I can reach out to each other, hopefully today, and get an understanding and move some components forward. This is the time though. And so in a couple of days, there's a huge announcement coming out with one of our corporate partners globally. They've called me 4 times while I was on this call to put the press release together to make sure we're saying it correctly. And my objective is to intersperse all of this that we're doing even today into the press release so that you're represented. Not that I will mention all of it by the name, but the fiber of it and the spirit of it will be incorporated into the press release that's global so that we are able to plug and play pretty easily and use over 100,000 outlets that they're going to release this press release into in the coming days to move the market tremendously. It is going to be a water faucet coming on, fire hydrant coming on, excuse me, as opposed to just turning on a water faucet. So we have to prepare ourselves infrastructurally so that people can receive what they're looking for when they call us, and they are going to call. It's not an if, it's a when. So thank you for listening to me. If anybody needs me for anything, I am here to help.
Well, thank you, Terrence.
So
in the
thank
chat,
you,
I put in the link to the Solar Collective, but also I put in the link to the United Nations Global Compact. They were formed back in 2000 when the launch of the Millennium Development Goals were announced by Kofi Annan, who was then the General Secretary. The United Nations Global Compact was set up to assist people just like you, Carlos, and you, Helen, and you, Nancy, and really all of us to connect together the business, corporate social responsibility that Terrence is talking about with real world impacts that have a positive impact. So I would like for us to take advantage of this opportunity to connect that dot. I'll be quiet and go to the next person here. If you don't know anyone else here, Lloyd, just go by the list of who else is on your list. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, so I guess we haven't heard from Urujia Ture. Do you know, can you unmute yourself? Rujiatu Ture. Do you know this person, Carlos?
Yes, she's also heading an organization in Sierra Leone. She's
I don't see that she has.
And I don't think
Carlos, could you please? Yes, she doesn't have a microphone. So Carlos, perhaps you could introduce who she is or her organization, and then we'll move to the next item agenda. Thank you. Carlos, please describe who she is and her organization, if you could.
Okay, she is Rugiatu Nene Ture. She has been a former Minister of Social Welfare, Gender and Children Affairs, the past government of Sierra Leone, but she's now in the civil society system. She has gone into the development system. She has an organization that they are fighting what we call female genital courts, fighting against female genital courts, FGC. She's one of the organization leading that particular fight in Sierra Leone. And she is hosting a lot of girls who are suffering from that particular aspect in the area of FGC, female genital cord. So she's doing a range of activities in the area of campaigning against that one, or awareness raising, in the area of education, in the area of agriculture. I know she has started also doing some mechanized farming, promoting women, especially those children that are victim from that perspective. So she's gathering those women and giving them some funds and also some agricultural inputs to ensure that they enhance economic livelihood. So she's doing a lot of things in raising awareness around gender and child protection issues and gender equity, gender equality in Sierra Leone.
Okay, it's good to know who's on our call. So again, there's I think you, Carlos, are depending on whether you are going to be joining the main business team. You know all of these people yourself and what they are doing. I think more than any of us, we'll get to know them possibly over time through you as well. But I think what we can have now, let me see, everybody has spoken at some point so far that's left on the call. The next agenda item, let's say we can open it up if anybody has any additional comments before we go to the next agenda item on how we agree to work together.
Yes, I'd like to point your attention to the chat for those that can reach it. We have at the top leadership now women. We have a woman, as I mentioned, at the top of the United Nations Global Compact. But here in the United States, we have also our UN ambassador to the United Nations is also a woman, and the head of the World Trade Organization is also a woman. So I hope when we get through this conversation, we can think about whatever we do has an impact at all three levels. And I think we can start at the top to engage them. Lloyd, you are in fact the Commonwealth of Nations representative for us. So that does involve Sierra Leone, as well as Kenya and Nigeria, which are also members of the Commonwealth. So Lloyd, I need you to start thinking globally about what that means and how we can move this forward on a collective global effort. Thank you.
Yep, certainly.
And that's exactly the Lloyd. Yes, I think now we have a paraphrase of the entire picture of what we want to look at and what we are looking at. So what you suggested initially is very important for us to establish the organization itself, or whatever we call it, and see how we can localize it with our different representational organizations in our different Commonwealth countries. And I think that could be the next step we're supposed to look at. Do we agree to set up this work frame? Do we agree to set up this body? And if yes, then let's get the representation. How are we going to do it? It's what do we need, So how or when normally do we meet? What are the things that we're going to look at? We have a setup of the spectrum or the framework of what we're going to look at, looking at our global index ideologies we have.
Yeah, well, I think that's important. But what we try to do is work on the basis of the document that I had originally created there, and see if we can flesh that out exactly to create the sort of the business units that will focus on each of these things. And then, but we first need to come together to agree that yes, let's work together. Let's incorporate a business that can then open the bank account, that can then approach the various organizations, even some of the ones that Andrew talked about, to say, is there funding available for us to actually implement this, to start hiring people, to actually move this to the next level? Because right now, and as I said, we have 3 of these Victory Pandemic teams, but so there's this GTA team we created quite a while back, but then there is this Sierra Leone team, and then there's a Kenya team. But what we really need is local teams. So Sierra Leone, it's great to have a Sierra Leone group, but Sierra Leone's a big country too. We may need a little Victory Pandemic team to do these tree plantings, to do these events, to do this promotion, to do to have the local conversations. So we may need to have that initial conversation into a dozen different groups. We have to manage that. We'll need websites and portals and back-end databases and such things like that. We'll need a management team that can really manage all of this, because it's going to very quickly get out of hand if we just keep it on WhatsApp, let's say, as WhatsApp conversations. I mean, that's untenable fairly quickly. And if as Terrence was saying, this is gonna move forward very quickly. If there's going to be a press release about this from a corporate's perspective, from a multinational company that says they are supporting this process, we need to be ready to have these systems in place as quickly as possible and get some IT people on this right away to build the website, to build back ends, to make this, to organize this. So we've got the framework for what we'd like to do, but it's just the how. But we need that core team to come together, and that's what this meeting is about. And I guess that's kind of the next agenda item. If there's any other comments before we get into that sort of next step, I'm open to that as well. And hearing nothing, I guess we will move on to the next agenda item, which is really about who would like to enter into this agreement to work to create what we might call the Unity Pandemic Business Group for now, because I don't know if there's any other name for that at this point. We would need to do a sort of a name search on that. I'm seriously doubting that exists. But then to actually create a business team and board of directors and incorporate this. And as I had indicated, if we do this in Canada, we can have up to 75% non-Canadian founders of the corporation, and it would probably be, I would guess, as a partnership. Could be with Soleil. I'm not sure if that's also an incorporated company as well. I'm not sure if as well Par XTC and Carlos, your company, and Angela perhaps as well, Kindred Kitchens. So do we have? Maybe even just if everybody could write in the chat, yes or no, as we move forward.
Yeah, I think
to join this partnership.
Yes. So yes.
I'll also be sending out an email afterwards, following up on this. I'll send out an email and confirm with everybody that's been copied on this recent email chain, whether they are willing to join the partnership or moving this agenda forward. And of course, since it is being recorded, Andrew should be able to share this recording as well, so people can see it and watch it.
Yeah, after the meeting, it'll take about 30 minutes to process, but then I can just send it out to everyone whose email address I have.
Mm-hmm. No, excellent, and I'll be asking everybody again that's copied on that whether they are willing to become founders or directors or advisors or whatnot that would be part of the business group, the partnership. So I'm hoping that everybody has read that PDF document that I did send out. I believe it's 4 pages with the overarching program, or including the events and how this can be used for engagement, creating local teams to both promote and also have conversations in communities to begin this process of localization on delivery of these solutions to achieving the SDGs.
So Lloyd, just to let you know, when you get through with this series of today's agenda, I'm going to stop recording, so we'll have this all together. And then Carlos, if you have time, maybe we could move directly into a conversation about working with the Zaindriss Foundation.
Yeah, that's fine. It's okay.
I'm hoping, I don't know, Carlos, if it will be the Zaindriss Foundation that will be, will be the entity that would come into the partnership with us.
Yeah, I think that should be the framework or the focus. Like in Sierra Leone, we have like Zaindriss Foundation that will be coordinating all these organizations and to work with the international forum that we're trying to set up.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
like from my own perspective, I'm coming in as a consultant and a sole proprietor, so I don't have a company. We are trying to set up, of course, the company in Canada, and I could then become a manager of the programs and start to organize the networks,
yes,
create the marketing and other things with other team members. I'm hoping also that people like to work with people like Corin Smith and others who are already I've been working with for at least the past year, Adam Greenwell and others, to create these programs, the tree plantings, the Sunlight Spectacle event, the Bubble Festival, which of course has not been done yet. So we need to develop that, all the marketing around that, all the messaging behind that. So I'm not looking to enter into necessarily. I could as a sole proprietor, but I don't have any capital to add to the creation of a corporation. But if we can have a number of entities come together to create this partnership, I could even potentially work on this full time if we have some seed funding that would allow us to begin to create these campaigns and the framework, the backbone for managing and organizing this whole programs.
yeah. So I think that is it. So because this whole framework is was started by few people like you, Lloyd, Andrew, and Carlos, and also Angela terrace, etc. So as we agreed, let us set up the entity. We already agreed. A lot of people have already commented, say yes. So we agreed to set it up, and then this should be formally registered in different countries we are from, and then of course what we are targeting. So this entity will work with all the organizations around it. It will serve as a umbrella. So this is how I'm looking at it, So like well, you will be one of the focal since you are in Canada, and also we should talk about fundraising, how we can find funds, to ensure that we accelerate our activities, different countries, what we planning to do, So that's really, really great.
So I think we have a framework for what we want to do. It's just a matter of building upon that and allowing us, giving us a capability to actually execute it. So this is the tricky part. I think is around, as you said, the funding and the building the, especially I think digital frameworks, systems that would allow us to manage this in a more coherent way and market this in a more coherent way, so that it's easier understood. Because I've had many times long conversations with people just to explain it. Sometimes takes hours even in some ways. Until people are really exposed to this on a day-to-day basis and hear these messages over long and see and experience what it means to localize these solutions and the systems we're trying to set up. It's going to take a while, and I think really the focus on education and engaging with women and youth is the right pathway to do this as well, and especially youth, but mothers and families need to have these need to be sort of terms and systems that are recognized in every community locally. So we actually don't have very many other agenda items, except that we wanted to just get this business entity agreed that we are going to create this, and who is going to actually be part of this when we create this corporation. Who's going to have their names on that document?
Well, in the meantime, Lloyd, since we're about an hour and 25 minutes into this, maybe you can wrap up in the next 5 minutes, and then we could talk to Carlos and deal with the Zaindriss Foundation, because it already exists. So we're going to close this up in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
May I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead, Terrence.
What does the business do?
Pardon? Say
Go
it again.
ahead, Terrence.
What does the business do?
The business essentially, as I put into the document, so it's mostly a management corporation, I would think, in terms of the UnityPandemic global campaigns and programs. So the campaigns including organizing local communities, these Tree of Peace and Reconciliation tree plantings on public and private properties, organizing and promoting these Sunlight Spectacle telethons, the music campaigns, with those messages of unity, peace, hope, sovereignty, etc. Organizing the local bubble fun festivals, so marketing around that and everything to do that. So organizing again the local teams. So creating this, basically the Victory Pandemic local networks around the world, in communities around the world, so that would actually be the ones to plant the trees of peace, and to actually be the ones to contribute to the Sunlight Spectacle, and to be the ones to actually host these bubble fun festivals in the local communities. We're not asking any global entity to go into these communities. We want local teams. So these are team building processes. So those local teams then, between those events, the tree plantings and the Sunlight Spectacle and the Bubble Fun festivals, would also be promoting the whole suite of open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure. So whether it's solar roof buildings, pyropods, or CSV gardens, or victory forests, or anything else that might fall into that category. The climate smart kitchens that I'm hoping to work with Angela on, and others that we can develop. And then what we want to do eventually is also establish these Spark Learning Hub establishments, essentially, working with the local education institutions, so school boards, universities, colleges, any other even private education institutions, to create these learning hubs where we would do education and training, professional training, training for youth, education and training for skills development, especially for our humanitarian entrepreneurs, the women entrepreneurs, to actually start to have them learn about these processes of localization, and as well the actual physical stuff, the infrastructure stuff that we talked about. And then, of course, the other thing we want to do is actually create a map of all of the places where we're planting these trees of peace and reconciliation. Every time we have an event, a Sunlight Spectacle event, every time we establish one of these victory forests, we want to map it out. We want to show people visually on the map that they can click on, a dynamic map like a Google map. And we actually want it to be a watershed map that doesn't show political boundaries, but actually shows watershed boundaries, so that we can actually visualize what's happening around the world. And of course, the final business function would be around the climate smart food strategy, where we start to actually certify all of these production systems, whether it's a solar roof building or a CSV garden or a food forest or any other kind of climate smart system, where we can actually certify that along the entire supply chain, right to the consumer, right to the fork, from farm to fork.
So Lloyd, we have about another, someone else. We have another 2 minutes here. But what I'm suggesting is, again, I'm happy to provide support. What it sounds like you're saying is going to take at least a personnel team of a few dozen people, probably a few $1 million. That's more than I have time or interest to pay attention to right now, but I'll be happy to provide a platform for you to have the conversation.
I'll hopefully be working, moving forward with people like Terrence and Carlos and Angela, at least, because I think it is necessary that we create the business team, and it is a very large undertaking if we want to actually do this. Certainly, Andrew, you have your own business and promoting these systems, but we do need to move forward on this. We're going to ever have systems that we might food system that we might call climate smart.
You might want to find out who just joined us, Lloyd. I'm not sure if it's for your meeting or ours. Galaxy S7. Perhaps they can introduce.
Yes, Galaxy S7. Go ahead.
Saya. Can you
Yes,
unmute yourself and provide an introduction?
Okay, I think Terrace asked. Somebody is talking?
yes, Terrence is not muted. But the person that just joined us does not have a microphone, does not have a mic, so they can't speak. I don't see that they're able to say who they
Perhaps
are.
could they put something into the chat?
Yeah, I think some people are sending some stuff through the chat box.
So we should have
So-
everybody put their contact information into the chat as well.
Yes. So yes, can also people send in their email addresses, those who haven't yet? Yeah, we see some people sending their websites, their email addresses, that's fine. Okay, so you talked about this international bubble celebrations. So primarily it was planned to start in Canada. So can we globalize it?
Yes, certainly. We had created the initial discussion group, of course, on WhatsApp. We are planning to actually do it here in the Greater Toronto area. And so that's actually also a conversation I'm having with our colleague Maria, who's not on the call, but she had offered a couple of properties in the Greater Toronto area to do that with her. Possibly, hopefully also with Joan Kerr from the Foundation for Building Sustainable Communities and others. We're also in discussions to do it here where I am in Markham. So we are trying to make sure these events happen. They would be the first ones, so it's open to our imagination in terms of what we actually do and the themes that we have, but it is being coordinated through our colleague Corin Smith in Bermuda as well, who was the person who had actually initiated the first Victory Pandemic team here in the GTA and initiated the first Greater Unity Pandemic team globally. So it is the themes that he had started.
I'm going to end this. So, Lloyd, I'm going to end this portion of our conversation. If you want to schedule another time, I'll make available the Zoom room so we can follow up about the bubbles and all that things.
Mhm.
But I do want to end this call to start the one with Zaindriss now. So I'm going to
Okay,
stop
that's fine.
recording. Any closing thoughts before I stop recording?
Looks like one more person
You
is
want to tell
trying to
anyone?
connect.
Yeah, but the person is struggling the connection, so it's not possible. I'm not sure the time.
Yeah. So I just want to say, I just want to thank everybody to actually come out to this this initial meeting discussion about moving forward on creating some kind of business entity. It is a conversation that I had originally actually with Prince Andrew and Terrence, and trying to make this reality. I think, as Terrence said, the timing is right, and we should start to formalize some of the stuff that's been up till now ad hoc, just as Andrew had done with the original ad hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors, where he's now formalizing it under his through some of the foundations that he's involved with in Los Angeles.
Okay, well, with that, Lloyd, I'm going to thank everyone for joining us. And I'm going to stop the recording now. We'll start the second session.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andrew.